Well, this one is not fun. Start out with what I'm going to admit is not what I am looking forward to doing. Talking about another stinker, clunker, 2 days in a row, back to back. Welcome to Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, and we're going to fly through this one, if only because it feels like we did the same thing last time. Not last time, last game when the Bruins played. They played against the Islanders, got throttled in the third period, 7-2, and pretty much, not the exact same thing, but close to it, Razor, happened in this one. I don't want to say it's time to panic. It is not time to blow it up. The question is going to be, though, what's going on? How real is this? And how much is it just the fact that the Bruins are missing three defensemen of their top six? I think there's a lot of things to cover, but we're going to get through it quickly. Let's start with how disappointed were you with this performance that you saw against the Rangers on Friday night?
Yeah, this one hurt more than the Islanders in the fact that the Islanders happened. Okay, that's going to happen. There's going to be games where it gets away from you. It was 2-2 going into the third period against a pretty good Islanders team that we all expect to be in the mix for the playoffs, and it got away from them. And okay, no biggie. They're going to come back against the Rangers, and look out. This team's going to be up 4-0 in the first period. We're going to see the old Bruins. They're going to get the message. They're going to feel responsible. They're going to feel the urgency, and it fell flat in the first period. It wasn't there. They were lucky to get out of that first period 1-0. Lafreniere hit a post. They had a couple other really good opportunities off turnovers in the neutral zone, and they had some pushback in the second, but it all goes back to the first period for me, just not coming out with that typical urgency that we've seen them do the last 4 years. And we see every single other team in the national. It would be one thing if they were down 1-0, but they outshot the Rangers 22-4, and the Rangers found a lucky goal. But it wasn't like that. The Rangers dictated the play, and it should have been 2 or 3-0 Rangers after the first.
Listen, the Bruins have no choice right now but to play with what they've got, right? No
Yeah.
choice, just like many other teams out there have no choice. This is such a messed up year between injuries and COVID and uncertainty, et cetera. Teams are playing guys. I literally regularly say this on a daily basis. I've never heard of this guy. Who is this kid that is playing?
And
Now,
Bill, you've heard this saying 100 times in the NHL. No one ever feels sorry for you in the NHL.
Right.
The opposition never, ever feels sorry for you in the NHL.
And nor should they.
No.
So the Bruins are playing with what they've got. I guess, look, Vakanainen, Zaboral, Clifton, we weren't sure if he'd be in the lineup. We didn't think he would be. He was. And then, John Moore. John Moore played 20 minutes again. I didn't love his game tonight, on Friday night. I didn't love that. But they have no choice. So I guess the thing is this. Let's get right to what do they need to do differently? Maybe the better question is, do you believe in your heart of hearts, if this is their D crew right now, that they can do stuff better? With how it's comprised right now.
I'm not sure now. That's the reality. I'm not sure. They've got to keep it. So they've got to keep it much more simple than they are. They're going to have to dumb it all the way down for an afternoon game. And last night, we didn't see it in the Rangers game. We just did not see it. In them dumbing it down and keeping it simple. We saw turnovers in the neutral zone, trying to do too much, trying to make plays that weren't there at the blue lines. And I think it's really important not to put this all in the D. The forwards put the D in bad spots. And sometimes the forwards can get away with that with the other 3-4 defensemen in the lineup. So the forwards have to recognize that, listen, we're short-staffed back there. We have to give them all the help we can do. And there was a lot of plays at the blue line offensively that they're absolutely no chance of making, and they were trying to make it, and it's just not a signature Bruins performance.
But they're not a dump and chase team. They're not. But when they're moving, I guess with more pace and unison, I guess they can make more of those plays. but I think they need to
Well,
get some of that chip and chase, give the
yeah,
puck
and
up and get it back mentality.
listen, for some of the guys up front, what they're doing now is not working. So maybe they should become more of a chip and chase type
Mm-hmm.
program. Certainly, the top line, they're not chip and chase players. David Krejci, when he's in the lineup, listen, you let those guys do whatever they want, but when you're looking at a Studnicka, Bjork, Dubrusk line, they're
Mm-hmm.
probably a chip and chase line. At the end
Well,
of the
Coyle
day,
and Smith should be too.
and they should be too, right? So I mean, they need to get in on forechecks. They need to wear players down, teams down, defensemen down, and cause some havoc down there. And we didn't see that the last two nights. And I guess that's, maybe it's the Tahoe thing. Maybe they got above their skis and felt like they could had a little bit more room than they actually do out there. But they have to get back to that. There's no question.
Post-game conference call or Zoom call, Bruce Cassidy singled out some players, or not singled out. He mentioned certain players by names in no particular order.
I would say that means singled out, right?
I guess so. Yeah, yeah.
Not he
He
didn't attack.
called
He
out.
didn't attack them, but when a
No,
coach says your name after a game at one of these games, you get your attention.
right, because it's public, and it's not like he hasn't told these guys either. Too, Bruce will never tell us anything that he hasn't told the players too.
Yes.
So, in no particular order, Bjork, Coyle, Wagner, Corrali, John Moore, DeBrusque, Clifton. These are all guys that are, I mean, they're all veterans. There's a few that are young vets. DeBrusque is the one that jumps to mind, only because he tantalizes you at times. We've seen that over a few years, and we haven't seen it enough. The last time he was in Madison Square Garden, wasn't that the night he came back? I'm looking at my notes, and he had 7 shots on goal that night after his injury. It was actually 2 times ago right there.
Yep.
But it just hasn't been enough, right? So are we back to the big Boston Bruin conundrum of middle lineup, and even the fourth line? The fourth line, I feel like, has not identified themselves this year like they have in the past. So have the Bruins almost lost that? I mean, have they? Is this a cause for concern right now? Not just 2 players or 1 player. It feels like the last few it's been multiple players that haven't shown up.
Yes, and it's not the cause for concern. Like, holy, where's this organization? How are they ever going to win again? But it's a concern when you are a legitimate contender and you've lost 4 out of 5 games and you haven't won indoors in over 2 weeks now. What does that mean? And where is the lead? Where's it coming from? Where are they going to find ways to win? And it hasn't felt like that. They have an opportunity in the last 2 games.
Yeah. Have you ever been called out, singled out by a coach post game?
I remember I was singled out big time in the locker room. One time in Toronto, I came back to Boston. It was one of the first times I had come back to Boston, and it was a 3-2 game after the first period. That was in the Bruins. That was like Dave Lewis era. That was the real dark ages here.
Yeah.
But, and Paul Maurice came in and just tore me apart in front of everybody after the period, and we went on to win big. And I remember, he said, I think you need a kick in the ass every once in a while, so I'm going to give it to you. So Toronto was a tough market. He didn't do that to me in Toronto. But certainly in Boston, I guarantee you Mike Sullivan said something about me playing better at some point.
Well, and again, Bruce doesn't. I mean, this is what I really like about and respect about Bruce, is how he's measured, fair, but can be direct in the media and with the media. First of all, it makes the media's job much better, much easier, gives you something valuable, right, to take. And it's not like, whether you want to say we are the media or the other people asking the questions in the post-game conference Zooms, don't see the same thing, that certain guys haven't stepped up. I mean, the list, as I said, is is long. I mean, you know, Charlie Coyle had a goal and an assist in his last 2 games coming in, but I mean, again, one of the assists came in that blowout against the Islanders. Like, I mean, he's too good not to step up. Craig Smith early on was Shooter Smith, as you called him, and it hasn't been.
We haven't seen them.
Not that mentality, no.
And I think from what I've seen, and just putting my player's hat on a little bit, the way Bruce Cassidy does call people out, it's he gets ahead of it a little bit, so the media can't run with it. And I think that protects the players in a way. And I think players respect that. And it's not like the sideways backhanded compliment or the backhanded jab where then the media doesn't really get the full answer, so then they get to run with it. And, is there turmoil? It's very direct. Like you said, it's very something that the players have already heard. So by the time it gets to us as a media, it's already been out there, and it doesn't affect the players as much. So I appreciate, with my player's hat on, the way he goes about it. I think it's very helpful for the leadership in the room. I think it's helpful for the younger guys, the guys that are actually getting the criticism thrown at them.
Speaking of younger guys, let's go over Studnika's game. Involved again.
Yeah.
Snake bit. Yeah,
I was gonna say that before you did. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that. Okay.
Because those 2 goals go in, right?
In theory, it's different, right? So 8 attempts in the game, 4 on net, 8 attempts, 50%, 5 of 10 in the face-off circle. Pretty good. I like his game. It feels to me that he is a natural center. Feels he is. I mean, it's, and so it looks comfortable for him. Vakanainen's game. I mean, the play that we all talked about post-game that stands out is him getting separated from Chris Kreider, who we always say, how strong and big of a bull he can be. But that's who Vakanainen's going to be facing regularly. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's who. That's
the other play.
He's got to handle that.
He has to. There's lots of guys that have big, strong legs like Chris Kreider, and Chris Kreider's a great hockey player, so there's a little bit more of that. But there's a bunch of guys in the NHL that can be as strong as him. And the one play, and I know you is when in the neutral zone in the first period where he tried to chip it past the player at the red line instead of playing it a little bit harder, and Lafreniere goes down, it goes under the bar. But that's a big exposing moment as well. He got away with it. But if that goes in, we're really talking about a couple really tough plays. So, I didn't mind his game in a 7-2 loss or 7-1 loss, whatever it was, against the Islanders. But he had a tougher outing for sure in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. Zaboral is okay. Again, I mean, nobody was good in this one. I mean, this is one of those games where on Morning Brew, to run through the whole lineup.
No, it's not.
It feels a waste.
Yeah, it's really, kicking the horse when it's down too, right? It's, they all.
So practice, they'll have practice, in the afternoon, Saturday afternoon, 2:00, they're going to have it this afternoon, okay? 40 minutes is all it'll be, maybe even less. Bruce will work on certain things. He'll work on the power play at the end. There's no question about that. It's the problem is with so limited practice time, you can't afford not to skate on Saturday, and they have an afternoon game.
Yeah, that's right.
Sunday as well.
Yeah.
So you got to get the legs going.
Well, and the other thing on the road, you have to get to the rink, because that's where you can really hang out. If you're at home, the hotel, you can't get together. You can't have a meal together.
Yeah,
you get to the rink for everyone to hang out.
Yeah. So they'll get on the ice. I got to imagine that Stephen Kampfer will play on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Even if Grizz checks in, I think you're putting 2 new D in.
I would think so. I think Grizz gets in and Kampfer gets in.
Vakanainen and Clifton out.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think, and then, well, what's your top pair now? Are you putting John Moore back up there with McAvoy? Are you putting Grizz? Are you going to go Grizzlick and Carlo? And then, all right, well, if you go Grizzlick and Carlo, then McAvoy needs. You're not going to put Camphor over there. You're gonna put Zaboral. I don't know. I mean Zaboral and McAvoy, and then Moore and Camphor. I'm a huge Cliffy fan when he's on. I didn't like he was. I thought he was missing a lot tonight.
Yeah, no, I know.
And,
He's going to be odd man out, I think.
Okay. You start Rask again? I would think so, right?
Yes, yeah, right back to Rask. I mean, goalie union. I know I'm going to get, but you go through it, and it wasn't. Obviously you can't give up 6 goals. You can't give up 7 goals the night before, but these were. I don't look at any of them where it was like if he had made that save, it really would have changed things. It wasn't like it was a bad goal, the second one. Or the
I don't
third
remember
one.
one.
It's not like so. But beyond all of that, at this point, you need Tuukka to find a way to get you a win on Sunday. That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Right, he's the number one, so you're coming back with him. You're getting him going.
Yep.
You hope that the team gets going.
Love to see the power play go. Feel like the power. We haven't talked about it but they're 0 for 5 in 2 games that were close going into third periods. If they find ways, at the start of the second period tonight, in the second period against the Islanders, they've gone dry. They have, and the 2 other losses prior to Tahoe, they were dry there too. So I want to see that get going, and whether that's a product of no Grzelcyk, no Krejci.
Well, you definitely have 1 unit now instead of 2 units without Grizz and Krejci.
Yes.
Just because you're taking 2/5 of what in theory would be your second unit, and they give up. By the way, another like the shorthanded goals. I mean, a couple of recent enough.
That's it.
Enough.
That's
enough.
It.
It's
you don't have to analyze it. You don't have to talk about it. Enough. That's it.
I mean, the decision when to pinch, when not to, where to put it, where yourself and your teammates, etc. Enough of a lot. There's just killers the last couple of games. They're just and we're going back again. Last season was 7, but the previous full year before that was 15 in a season, and it's just too many. And it's not great analysis, but enough. I mean, it means you have to simplify it more in your power play, then fine, then do that. If you're not going to be able to handle, especially pucks up top. I guess the only other thing I want to just go over. I mean, if you're Don Sweeney, not you personally, but you in general, and you touched on this on the pre-game show on Nesson about making trades before the deadline. What are we, 43, 44, 43 days away now?
43 now.
4-3 now. Okay. If you believe that this team is really good, don't you make a deal very soon, or at least try to, versus waiting, not only for the quarantine factor, but just for the fact that you don't want to have to, if you miss out on a deal, you're going to have to keep relying on young guys, unless that's what you're committed to this year totally. And maybe I have to remind myself that they are, because they did that by moving Chara, by allowing Krug to go. But if you really in your heart of hearts think that this team is really good, don't you got to try and go out and get something done sooner rather than later?
I think, again, just going through the quarantine process, the amount of games that are coming up here in the next 70 days that we've all heard about, you're going to need, if you want to get the deals done, I don't think that trade deadline is a realistic number this year. It doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is that for that trade deadline deal is if you get to a point where you have an injury the week before that, or there's just this one small veteran piece that you can go out and pluck that maybe will be a depth guy. But if you're going to actually make a deal to make your team better and really contribute down the stretch, I think we're almost in the stretch already.
It feels like
we're really getting to the stretch already, and the more bodies, the better. So I would agree with you in the fact you got to start kicking tires, and making a plan. You might not necessarily need to pull the trigger right now, but you need to know what's available, what isn't, and if this goes, if I have an opportunity, I think that happens much earlier this year than it ever has.
And you have some assets. I don't know how other teams view them, but you have some repetitive assets in the lineup, I think.
And
You got a lot of young guys, left shots.
we haven't talked about that. I mean, this is an opportunity. There's lots of young guys playing in these games right now. That they're getting. There's a bit of a showcase element to it.
Yep. And they're there, and a few of them have this plus at least one, maybe 2 years on a contract too. So that carries some weight as you look around the league. You're not just giving a guy away who then needs to be signed or going to UFA. If I remember correctly, I was trying to read it. Bruins might have 15 games in the month of March. So we have one more game in February. This is not a leap year, correct? Just 28 days.
Just 28.
So the Bruins have day off Saturday and then Sunday afternoon, and then they have Monday, Tuesday off, and then they hit the ice finally back at home. They start 15 games in, I think it's 29 days. Forgive me if I'm off by a day. As they're gonna pretty much every other day except one back-to-back against Pittsburgh in the month of March. So we're finally going to work a lot, and we're finally going to see them a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can wait much longer than that. So give it, I say, 2 to 3 more weeks with regard to this team. And then, I don't know, I'm definitely a believer this year. Again, if you believe in this team, to make a move sooner rather than later. I just think it has to. Fortify it.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to move something. All right. I mean, am I missing anything? Are we missing anything on this morning brew? This is more like a cold brew because the Bruins are cold right now.
They're cold.
And I like hot, but
listen,
even I admit that this is a cold brew.
It's cold, and they're first in the division still, and all those things too.
For now, by Saturday night they might not be, right?
No, and that's the difference in. You can't say, oh, they're losing points to teams out of conference. All these games are 4-point games. The Islanders just got much closer, or the Rangers got much closer tonight than they were prior 60 minutes ago. So that's what the pressing, the urgency of the season, because of you're playing division games every single night. So every single night it feels much, just that it hurts that much more losing points in regulation.
All right. Well, let's see if they can right the ship.
Yep.
On Sunday at Madison Square
We'll
Garden.
have a good morning brew Monday, and all will be forgiven.
Maybe we'll even get that done Sunday afternoon. What about that one? All right.
I like that.
Maybe we'll do that. We'll get that done. In the meantime, folks, try and enjoy the rest of your day. And at the very least, enjoy your coffee. Have a good day. And we will talk to you after the Bruins take on the Rangers on Sunday. This is Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor.